Welcome back to Bookkast, where we give you bestsellers in minutes. And today we're diving into Kristin Hannah's The Women.
Ooh.
It's a story that takes us through
Yes.
the turbulent times of the Vietnam War. And we follow Frankie, a young woman who leaves her very comfortable life to become an army nurse.
It's fascinating how Hannah uses this very personal journey to shed light on the broader experiences of women during wartime. I mean, it's not just a love story or a war story. It's really about strength and the resilience of the human spirit.
Right. We're not just talking about the battles here, but the emotional battles fought on the home front and within oneself.
Oh, absolutely.
So we start this story on the idyllic Coronado Island, where Frankie is living this pretty carefree life.
Yeah.
But even in paradise, there are hints of struggles to come.
Exactly. We see her close relationship with her brother Finley, who's about to join the Navy. There's this celebratory send-off, but underlying it all is this sense of foreboding, especially with the introduction of Rye, Finley's friend, who plants the idea in Frankie's mind that women can be heroes too.
Right. This idea really sticks with Frankie, but she's also wrestling with those societal expectations and her mother's very traditional views of what a young woman should be. Do you think that this internal conflict kind of sets the stage for her later struggles?
Absolutely. It shows how Frankie is already kind of questioning the roles that she's expected to play. And then when Finley is actually sent to Vietnam, the war becomes so real for her, it shatters her sheltered existence. And the news of Finley's death, it completely devastates Frankie, fueling her desire to find purpose and honor her brother's memory.
That's a turning point, isn't it?
Yeah.
It pushes her to enlist as an army nurse, even despite her mother's disapproval.
Yes, it's a decision that's completely driven by grief, but also a desire to kind of break free from those societal constraints.
Right.
And Hannah beautifully portrays this transformation, showing how the war, once an abstract concept, becomes so intensely personal for Frankie.
So off she goes to basic training. But as you can imagine, nothing can truly prepare her for the horrors of Vietnam.
Right. Her arrival at the 36th Evacuation Hospital is complete sensory overload. The constant noise, the influx of casualties, it's a world away from her life on Coronado.
Yeah, it's in this chaotic environment that she forms bonds with her fellow nurses, Barb and Ethel, who become her support system. And they share a unique understanding of what they're going through, right? A bond forged in the crucible of war.
Their friendship is a powerful element of the story. It highlights that strength and resilience of women supporting each other in the face of unimaginable trauma.
And then there's Jamie, the married surgeon.
Oh, Jamie.
Their connection adds another layer of complexity to Frankie's emotional landscape, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It shows how even in the midst of war, that human connection and the need for love, they persist. Jamie's death in a bombing devastates Frankie, leading to this downward spiral that's fueled by PTSD and a sense of disillusionment.
It's a stark reminder of those invisible wounds of war. It makes you wonder how many others suffered in silence.
Oh, yeah.
Especially women, who weren't always given the space to express their trauma.
Exactly. This is where the novel goes beyond the typical war narrative, right?
Yeah.
It explores the psychological toll on those who witnessed those horrors firsthand, particularly women who were often expected to be so stoic and strong.
Even amid all this darkness, Frankie finds strength in her work and the bonds that she forms with her fellow nurses. She even gets a glimpse of that broader, social and political landscape when she visits Saigon, a world so different from her sheltered upbringing.
The Saigon scenes are so crucial. They show those complexities of the war.
Yeah.
The cultural clashes, the growing anti-war sentiment. It adds another layer to Frankie's understanding of the conflict, moving beyond her personal experience to encompass that wider context.
And speaking of wider context, remember Rye, Finley's friend.
Yeah.
He re-enters the story as a Navy pilot stationed in Vietnam, and their paths cross at a party, rekindling a spark from their past.
This reunion brings such a new wave of emotions for Frankie.
Oh, yeah.
It reawakens that sense of hope and connection, but also creates a moral dilemma because Rye is actually engaged in another woman.
It's a reminder that even in the midst of war, life goes on, love blooms, and, difficult choices have to be made.
Right.
But before Frankie can really explore her feelings, tragedy strikes again. Rye is deployed and presumed killed in action, leaving Frankie completely heartbroken.
Another devastating blow, further solidifying that sense of loss and the cruel randomness of war that permeates the story. It pushes Frankie to reevaluate her priorities and what truly matters to her as she completes her tour of duty and prepares to return home.
Homecoming isn't the happy reunion Frankie expects, though. She faces a new battle this time, against those societal expectations, and a family that struggles to understand what she's been through.
This is where Hannah really digs into the societal challenges faced by Vietnam veterans.
Yeah.
Frankie's family, particularly her parents, embody this disconnect. They're more concerned with appearances than acknowledging her pain. They even go so far as to pretend that she never went to Vietnam.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? Her own family becomes another battleground, a place where she feels judged and so misunderstood. And this isolation pushes Frankie to seek solace in unhealthy coping mechanisms, including alcohol, which further alienates her from those who care about her.
It highlights that lack of support for Vietnam veterans, especially women. Their trauma was often minimized, their stories silenced. Hannah masterfully captures the sense of isolation and that struggle to reintegrate into a society that hasn't come to terms with the war's impact.
And as Frankie grapples with her PTSD, her emotional scars kind of manifest,
Yes.
In nightmares, anger, reckless behavior. It's as if the war is still raging inside her.
Exactly. This internal struggle becomes a central theme.
Yeah.
The war has changed Frankie in profound ways, and she's trying to reconcile her wartime self with the person she's trying to be now.
She seeks help at a veterans clinic, but even there, she's met with indifference and denial. This encounter really underscores that systemic failure to provide adequate care and support for veterans, especially women, who often faced additional stigma and judgment.
It's a stark reminder of the societal challenges facing those returning from war, and that need for compassion and understanding. Thankfully, Frankie has Barb and Ethel, who become her lifeline during this very difficult time. They whisk her away from the judgmental environment of Coronado, offering refuge and unconditional support at Ethel's family farm in Virginia.
This act of friendship is so powerful. It highlights the importance of having that support system, people who understand and accept you without judgment. And the farm becomes this sanctuary for Frankie, a place where she can begin to heal and rediscover herself.
It symbolizes a fresh start, a chance to reconnect with nature and find a sense of peace away from the pressures of her old life.
While Frankie is focusing on her personal healing, Barb becomes deeply involved in the anti-war movement. She joins the Vietnam veterans against the war.
This parallel storyline adds another dimension to the narrative. Barb's activism reflects that growing societal disillusionment with the war, mirroring Frankie's own internal conflict. It shows that the war's impact extends far beyond the battlefield, influencing the political and social landscapes.
At first, Frankie resists Barb's efforts to get her involved in those protests. She's trying to bury the past to move on with her life.
Understandable, given the trauma that she's endured. The thought of revisiting those painful memories, it can be so overwhelming.
But Barb persists, believing that Frankie needs to sign her voice, to speak her truth, and join that chorus of dissent. And eventually, Frankie comes around. She realizes she can't stay silent, that she owes it to herself and to those who didn't come home to speak out against the war.
This is a powerful moment of transformation for Frankie. She's moving from a place of avoidance to a place of action, reclaiming her agency and finding her voice in a world that has tried to silence her.
So Frankie and Barb travel to Washington, D.C. to participate in this massive protest against the war. It's a pivotal experience for Frankie as she joins thousands of others in demanding an end to the bloodshed.
This protest represents a turning point in Frankie's healing journey. It's a moment of solidarity and empowerment as she connects with other veterans who share her pain and outrage. It's also a step towards reclaiming her identity as a veteran and acknowledging the significance of her service.
During the protest, Frankie encounters a group of students raising money for the League of POW MIA Families. This encounter sparks a new passion for her, a way to channel her grief and anger into something constructive.
It's a significant moment. It introduces Frankie to a new way of honoring those who served in Vietnam. It sparks a passion for advocating for POWs and their families, giving her a sense of purpose and connecting her to a community that understands that ongoing impact of the war.
And just as Frankie is finding this new purpose, she receives news that pulls her back to Coronado. Her mother has suffered a stroke, and she's needed at home. This sets the stage for a whole new chapter in Frankie's journey, one filled with family drama, unexpected reunions, and the enduring power of love and forgiveness.
Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into the women as we follow Frankie's journey back to Coronado, her complicated relationship with her family, and the unexpected twists and turns that await her.
We'll be right back after a short break.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Kristin Hannah's The Women.
When we left off, Frankie was heading back to Coronado to be with her ailing mother,
Right.
leaving behind that newfound peace and purpose she discovered on the farm.
Yeah, it's almost like she's being pulled back into the very environment that
Yeah.
triggered so much of her pain and trauma. But I guess life rarely offers us those perfectly linear healing journeys, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And as Frankie steps back into her childhood home, she finds herself kind of navigating this complex web of family dynamics, unresolved conflicts, and the weight of those past expectations. Her relationship with her parents, especially after her decision to enlist, has always been strained.
Oh, yeah.
Do things change now that her mother is ill?
There's a definite shift. We see a more vulnerable side of Frankie's father. That kind of stoic facade crumbles as he struggles to cope with his wife's illness. And despite the years of estrangement and resentment, Frankie steps up to care for her mother and support her father.
It's a testament to her growth, isn't it? She's
That's
choosing
it.
compassion over bitterness, even though it means reopening some old wounds.
It's a really beautiful depiction of how forgiveness and understanding can kind of emerge even in the most challenging circumstances. Frankie's actions demonstrate a level of maturity and empathy that contrasts sharply with her parents' previous inability to really understand her experiences.
While Frankie is grappling with all these family complexities,
Right.
she also receives some news that completely upends her world. Rye, the man she loved and believed to be dead,
Yeah.
is alive. He's been released from a POW camp, and he is returning home.
Talk about a bombshell. It throws Frankie into this whirlwind of emotions,
Right.
dredging up feelings she thought she'd buried,
Right.
and forcing her to confront the unresolved love that still burns within her.
I can't even imagine the turmoil.
Right.
Here she is, back in her childhood home, dealing with her sick mother, and suddenly the ghost of her past love reappears. How does she handle all of this?
It's a struggle, to say the least.
Right.
Frankie's engaged to Henry, a kind and stable man who kind of offers her that promise of a normal life. But the return of Rye reawakens a passion and intensity she hasn't felt since Vietnam. It's that classic dilemma, choosing between the comfort of the familiar and the allure of the unknown.
And to complicate matters even further, Frankie discovers that she's pregnant.
Oh, wow.
It's almost too much to handle, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. This
Yeah.
unexpected pregnancy. Yeah.
Adds another layer of complexity to an already impossible situation. It forces Frankie to confront her priorities, her desires,
Yeah.
and the potential consequences of her choices.
So she tries to do what she thinks is right. She suppresses those feelings for Rye, and she goes through with the wedding planning, convincing herself that marrying Henry is the responsible choice.
But as we know, those buried emotions,
Yeah.
they rarely stay dormant.
Right.
The closer the wedding gets, the more Frankie realizes that she can't escape the pull of her past, that intensity of her connection with Rye.
And fate, as it often does, intervenes. On her wedding day, just hours before the ceremony, Frankie has this chance encounter with Rye.
Oh, wow.
And it's a moment charged with all these unspoken emotions, years of longing and regret, and that undeniable spark that still ignites between them.
This encounter is a catalyst. It shatters that fragile facade Frankie has built around her heart.
Yeah.
It forces her to confront her true feelings and to make a choice that will have lasting consequences for everyone involved. Overwhelmed by the force of their reunion, Frankie makes this bold and very unconventional decision. She calls off the wedding, breaking Henry's heart.
It's a pivotal moment in Frankie's journey. It shows just how far she's come from that young woman who felt so trapped by those societal pressures.
Right.
She's choosing her own happiness. She's prioritizing her own needs and desires, even if it means going against the grain.
So she leaves Henry at the altar and rushes to the airport to meet Rye as he arrives back in San Diego.
Yeah.
It's a reunion filled with joy, relief, and that bittersweet ache of lost time.
Yeah. It's a testament to the enduring power of love, the resilience of the human spirit, and the hope that even after years of separation, some connections remain unbroken.
But just as they're reconnecting, basking in the glow of their reunion, Frankie uncovers this devastating truth.
Oh, no.
Rye has been harboring a secret, a lie, that completely shatters the foundation of their rekindled romance.
The revelation that Rye fabricated his engagement story, that he wasn't actually committed to another woman,
Right.
throws Frankie into a spiral of hurt and anger.
Yeah.
It undermines everything she believed about him, revealing a side to him that's far from the heroic ideal she held in her heart.
It's a harsh reminder that war can change people in ways we don't always understand.
Yeah.
And it kind of raises the question, did the Rye she knew in Vietnam truly exist? Or was it just a figment of her wartime hopes and projections?
It's a complex and painful realization for Frankie. It forces her to confront that idealized image she's held of Rye.
Right.
To see him through a clearer lens.
Flaws and all.
Flaws and all.
Betrayed and heartbroken, Frankie makes the difficult decision to break things off with Rye. It's a testament to her strength and her growing self-awareness. She's no longer willing to settle for less than she deserves, even if it means letting go of a love that once held so much promise.
It's a powerful moment of growth. Frankie is choosing her own well-being over the allure of a familiar love. She's prioritizing her own healing and setting those boundaries that protect her emotional health.
And as if dealing with the emotional fallout of her relationship with Rye wasn't enough, Frankie suffers another devastating blow.
Oh, gosh.
She has a miscarriage, losing the child that she was carrying.
This loss is so incredibly poignant. It symbolizes that culmination of all the trauma that Frankie has endured, the physical manifestation of her emotional turmoil. It's a heartbreaking reminder of the fragility of life and that enduring impact of the war on her psyche.
Reeling from the loss of her child and those shattered dreams of a future with Rye, Frankie spirals into this really dark place. She turns to alcohol and sleeping pills, seeking to numb the pain and escape that overwhelming weight of her grief.
This downward spiral is a stark reminder of the lasting effects of PTSD. Frankie's coping mechanisms are failing her, and she's in danger of succumbing to the darkness that threatens to consume her. But thankfully, she has Barb and Ethel who refuse to let her just disappear into despair.
Right, they stage an intervention.
Yes.
A difficult but necessary act of love that forces Frankie to confront her self-destructive behavior. And it's a turning point, right? As their unwavering support and tough love push Frankie towards the path of healing.
It highlights the vital role of community and the power of female friendship in overcoming trauma.
Yeah.
Barb and Ethel are a lifeline for Frankie, offering a safe space for her to confront her demons and begin that long process of recovery.
Welcome back to Bookkast, where we bring you bestsellers in minutes. As we wrap up our deep dive into Kristin Hannah's The Women, we find Frankie kind of at a crossroads. She's grappling with the emotional fallout of her relationship with Rye, the loss of her child, and that deep-seated trauma that still haunts her.
It's a very pivotal point in her journey, wouldn't you say? The layers of grief and disillusionment, it's almost too much to bear. But amidst the darkness, there's this glimmer of hope, a recognition that healing is possible, although the path won't be easy.
So what happens next? How does Frankie pull herself out of this downward spiral?
Well, with that unwavering support of Barb and Ethel, Frankie agrees to enter a treatment program specifically designed for Vietnam veterans. It's a difficult decision, but it marks a significant step towards recovery. She's finally acknowledging she can't do this alone, that she needs professional help to really process that trauma that's been holding her captive for so long.
It must be so challenging to confront those deeply buried memories, to revisit all that pain and the guilt that often accompanies wartime experiences.
Absolutely. But the treatment program provides this safe and supportive environment for Frankie to unpack those emotions, right?
Yeah.
To make sense of her experiences and to develop some healthier coping mechanisms.
And she's not alone in this journey, is she? She connects with other Vietnam veterans, men and women, who share similar scars, both visible and invisible.
This sense of community is so crucial. It helps Frankie realize she's not the only one who carries the weight of the war, that her feelings are valid, her experience is shared.
Right.
And it's in these shared stories that healing really begins to take root.
Through therapy and group sessions, Frankie begins to process the trauma, to kind of piece together those fragmented parts of herself that were shattered by the war and its aftermath. It's a slow and painful process, but it's also incredibly empowering.
It really is. It's a testament to Frankie's resilience, her determination to reclaim her life and forge a new path forward. She's not just surviving, she's choosing to thrive.
Yeah.
To find that meaning and purpose beyond the darkness of her past.
And as she progresses in her treatment, does she realize that she needs a fresh start?
I think so. She needs a place where she can rebuild her life away from the shadows of Coronado and the ghosts of her past.
Yeah, it's a natural progression. Sometimes healing requires a change of scenery, a physical separation from the environments and the relationships that kind of trigger those painful memories.
Right, and who better to embark on this new adventure with than her sisters in arms? Barb and Ethel, they've been her constant source of support, her anchors in the storm.
Their bond is truly inspiring. It speaks to the power of female friendship, that unwavering loyalty and love that can sustain us through life's most difficult challenges.
Absolutely.
So the three of them pack their bags and head west, leaving behind the ghosts of their past and seeking a future filled with hope and healing. Where do they end up?
They find themselves drawn to the breathtaking landscapes of Montana, a place of those wide-open spaces and rugged beauty, a world away from the chaos and trauma they've left behind.
It sounds like the perfect place for a fresh start, a place to reconnect with nature and rediscover oneself.
Exactly. They purchase a piece of land and build a home together, a testament to their enduring friendship and their shared dream of a brighter future. It's a powerful symbol of their resilience and their determination to create a life on their own terms.
And while they're building their new lives in Montana, they don't forget about those who are still struggling with the war's legacy, right? They continue their work advocating for Vietnam veterans, ensuring that their sacrifices are remembered and that their voices are heard.
It's a testament to their unwavering commitment to healing, not just for themselves, but for their entire community. They understand that true recovery involves not just confronting those personal demons, but also working to create a more just and compassionate world.
And just as they're finding a sense of peace and belonging in their new home, Frankie receives an invitation that will bring her face to face with the past in this really profound and unexpected way.
This is where the story takes another powerful turn. Frankie's invited to attend the unveiling of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. It's a momentous event that'll gather veterans from across the country to honor those who served and those who made the ultimate sacrifice.
It's an opportunity for Frankie to confront the ghosts of her past, to pay tribute to those she lost, and to find closure in the shared grief and remembrance of a nation.
Hannah beautifully captures the emotional weight of this event. The memorial itself, with its stark black granite walls inscribed with the names of the fallen, becomes a symbol of both the collective loss and the individual journeys of healing and remembrance.
As Frankie walks along the wall, tracing the names with her fingers, she's flooded with all those memories, both painful and bittersweet. It's a powerful moment of reckoning, a confrontation with the past that is both cathartic and deeply moving.
And amid the throngs of veterans, Frankie experiences a series of unexpected encounters. She meets a young veteran who recognizes her as a nurse who served in Vietnam, and he thanks her for her service. He acknowledges those often overlooked contributions of women in the war.
It's a touching moment of validation, isn't it? A reminder that even those small acts of kindness and compassion can have a profound impact on those who have endured the horrors of war.
Absolutely. And then in a twist of fate, Frankie comes face to face with her father.
Oh, wow.
Their relationship has been so fraught with tension and misunderstanding. But in this sacred space, surrounded by the names of the fallen, they find a moment of reconciliation.
It's a powerful scene, isn't it? Frankie's father finally acknowledges her service, expressing pride and regret for the way he treated her upon her return from Vietnam.
Yeah, it's a long-awaited apology, a recognition of the sacrifices she made and the strength that she showed in the face of unimaginable hardship.
This moment of forgiveness really is a testament to the healing power of shared grief and remembrance. It shows that even the most fractured relationships can mend in the presence of such profound loss and the recognition of shared humanity.
It does.
And as Frankie stands with her father, united in their grief and remembrance, she spots a familiar figure in the crowd.
Oh, Jamie.
The surgeon she loved and lost in Vietnam.
It's a moment that transcends time and loss. A reminder that the bonds forged in war can endure even the most unimaginable circumstances.
Wow.
Their reunion is so bittersweet, a poignant reminder of the love that they shared and the sacrifices they made.
Overwhelmed by emotion, Frankie reaches out to Janie, and their hands meet in a gesture of comfort and shared understanding. A powerful moment of closure, a recognition that even in death, the connections that matter most remain unbroken.
Absolutely.
And so Frankie's journey comes full circle. She's found peace not by forgetting the past, but by honoring it, by acknowledging the pain and the loss, and by embracing the love and the friendships that have sustained her along the way.
It's a really powerful reminder that healing is possible even from the deepest wounds, and that sometimes the most profound lessons in life are learned in the most unexpected places.
Kristin Hannah's The Women is more than just a war story, wouldn't you say? It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the power of female friendship, and the enduring impact of love and loss. It really is.
If you're looking for a book that'll stay with you long after you turn the final page, we highly recommend The Women. It's a story that'll move you, inspire you, and remind you of the strength that resides within us all. And that's The Women by Kristin Hannah.
On Bookkast.
Bestsellers in minutes.